Hi friends, today we are going to make a perfect dessert for Valentine's Day or Easter. It is a guava chiffon cake and they serve it at the islands a lot of time at luau's and special events. So I thought today let's make it. I've been working on this recipe. I've got the whipped topping down great, the guava gel, and I wasn't totally thrilled with my first run through with a white cake and adding guava juice. But stay tuned, see what I do. You are going to want to put this on your rotation of special cakes. So the first thing I want to do is whip up our egg whites. This is a chiffon cake and gives it a little bit of a light texture. We're going to beat our egg whites first and then we will mix up our cake batter. This is pretty simple. Well, I say it's simple that we're using a box cake. That's one step that's a little bit quicker. Now I have my eggs out here at room temperature, and I'm gonna go ahead and separate and put the egg whites in one bowl, and we're gonna use the egg yolks for when we put the cake batter together. So let's set that aside and do that. I love this little gadget I got. I think I got this, gosh, when I was first married, maybe. So, it's a little Tupperware device. It separates the egg whites from the egg yolks. I love it. But you don't need one of those. You can just do it the old-fashioned way too, and just kind of swap out your egg yolks, kind of separate the whites from here. But this one works so fantastically, so I'm gonna use it. And when we got married, and you know how you have a bridal shower, I think I'm wondering if I got that then. Um, One cool little side note was at my bridal shower, all the ladies put their favorite family recipe that they like, and then they put one ingredient from it. So I got that all on my bridal shower. That was a fun idea. I make some of those recipes. I'm not gonna say make all of them, but there's certain ones that have stuck through the years. One of them was this cranberry. What were they called? Cranberry um, oatmeal squares. Oh my gosh, they're delicious, and I make those for the holidays. I don't make it every year, but I make it a lot. So maybe sometime I'll share that recipe. So we're gonna take our eight. No, don't use eight because we're just making a uh, small cake. We're not making The first cake I made was a bigger sheet cake, which I didn't show you. Maybe I'll put some stuff up on here to show you how that was. But let's take we're just making a smaller cake. We only need 3 egg whites, and we want that to be good soft peaks. Let's use a quarter cup of sugar in there, and we're going to use a tad of cream of tartar. I can't remember if the first batch I even used cream of tartar, but oh, there it is. But if you don't have it, you probably can live without it. But it just helps your egg whites to have a better peak to it. We're going to put that on high for a moment. I'll have you take a look at that, and we'll keep going in a moment. So here's an angle of those egg whites, and you can kind of see just it can go just a tad bit longer. I have this on high. It'll take like a couple of minutes, maybe. All right, let's take a look at that. Yeah, that's, oop, I'm flinging it all over myself. That's pretty good. So let's empty that into another bowl so that we can mix up our cake mix. Now you can do this after you beat up your cake, but I only have this one bowl for my stand mixer, so I was like, I thought, let me make these egg whites first. Let's see if I can get that out of there. And then we'll mix up our cake mix. So I won't even have to wash that out, really. And egg whites like this, of course, if you might want them a little stiffer if you're making like a lemon meringue pie, which I love. I pretty much, there's not too many desserts I haven't met that I don't like. I don't know about you. I do have a sweet tooth. My mom always made great dessert. And my mom, and I remember my great grandmother's, my great grandma, she lived with us for a few years, and she was a great cook too, and she loved her desserts. She was born like in the late hundreds, so she died when she was 91, so she had a nice full life, and I learned a few things from her. So let's go ahead and mix up our cake mix now. And I'm just using a store-bought strawberry cake. I used the super moist. Now, like I told you, I tried this out with a white cake. I think I pretty much made it close to the same way. But I just thought it needed that little extra guava flavor, and I thought maybe, and I've seen other people, I was researching this on the internet, some other people use strawberry, not everybody does. But, all right, so let's go ahead. We're going to use some coconut oil. I've got about a half a cup of coconut oil. We've got our 3 egg yolks. I'm going to mix that in there. And we are going to use our guava. We're going to use 1 cup of concentrated guava. Whole cup. I pulled this out of the freezer. It's still a little frozen, but let's see if we can get a spoon. And I made the one cake I made with the white cake. I brought that to church. They got to test that out. I have my church. They test out a lot of my recipes. Because when you're testing out a recipe, you don't necessarily want to eat it all yourself, because that's too many calories. All right, so we're going to use 1 cup of the guava nectar, and I think I'm going to use a pinch of salt, just to, I'm sure there's sodium already in that cake mix, but let's just try that. So we're really just replacing, most cake mix, right? They use water. We're just substituting it with, and using a cake mix, you can doctor them up and give it lots of different flavors and spins. I have done that for many years, especially when my kids were growing up. Whoa, let's put the timer on for a minute. I should have used my little Uzi Watts guard, but I didn't. So we're going to let that mix for only about a minute. maybe a tad more if we need it. We'll scrape down the bowl, make sure there's no lumps. And then we're going to fold in the egg whites into the cake batter. Beat this for about a minute. I'm going to scrape down my bowl, make sure there's no dried cake mix that can get incorporated. I think that looked pretty good. So let's scrape this off. I want to get one of those gadgets that you can put on these paddles in the whisk. It gets all the extra excess, whatever you're making the ingredients, whether it's a frosting or, yeah, I want to get one of those gadgets where you can scrape off this excess. Now you could just determine what size cake pan you want to use. Depending on how many people. If you're just doing it for the family, maybe you want to make a couple little cakes and freeze some and use it for another time. I think that's good enough. My hands are all sticky. Now, normally I like to use my glass bowl that you can see what's going on. But I don't want to play with this batter too much and make it tough. Because last cake I made, I did do that a little bit. I was playing with it too much. And it was a little denser than I wanted. So let me just show you something with the cake pans. So I originally made it in this, I think this is a 9 by, or 11 by 16. And this is really great. And I was checking out some recipes from Hawaiians that make it. And a lot of times they do serve it like a sheet cake because you can keep it right in the pan. It's easy to store in the fridge. And you can put your different layers on top and put some plastic wrap and keep it in the fridge. That was nice. But I'm going to do something a little bit different on this one. I did that, the first one. I'm going to use some round cake pans. So let's go ahead and we're going to take our egg whites and we're going to fold those into the batter. We're going to be gentle with it. I mean, this certainly doesn't come out like angel food cake. I think we use a lot more egg whites. I have never made an angel food cake. And we're just gonna, let me show you how it looks. And we're just gonna fold that in. Just take your spatula and gently fold that into. Just trying to incorporate that fully into your batter. Let's just cross our fingers that I didn't overmix this, because this is a technique I don't really do, so I feel like this batter is a little thicker than it needed to be, but at this point I don't want to add any more liquid. Okay, so let's get our cake pan and put it in there. Wash my hands a little bit. I have the oven preheating at 350. I've already greased and floured the pans that I'm going to use. So I decided I'm going to use these two little pans because I want to do this more like a layer cake. So we'll see how I have intentions of how it's going to be. We'll see if that works out. Set this aside so you can see. So my intention is to cut this and have it like a layer cake. And then this other smaller cake, I was going to use the crumbs from it and coat the outside of the cake. You'll see what I'm talking about later. So let's go ahead and see if this will work. Probably should have made sure first that this is going to be enough batter. Of course, it's going to raise up. Of course, I could have done this all in one pan and really just use one of the layers for my I want to use like a crumb coat on the outside of the cake. I thought that would look really pretty. I said this is gonna be so pretty for Easter too. I don't want to narrow it down to Valentine's Day. You know, it's a pretty pink, right? I'm scraping out all the batter. Look, it smells really good with already with the strawberry cake batter and the guava nectar. Like I said, I used the concentrate, so hopefully it will have a nice strong flavor. We'll go ahead and make a guava simple syrup so that we can coat the layers with that. So give it a nice intense guava flavor. And I meant to do that on the other cake I made last time, which you didn't see that, but I forgot to do that. And I think that would even help that white cake. So let's get these in the oven. Probably going to take less than a half an hour. And we'll clean up. We're going to make our whipped topping for that. And we'll go ahead and make our guava gel. So let me clean up. We'll get this in the oven. Shakes. All right. We have the cake in the oven baking. We're going to make our guava gel. Got this heat on about medium high. And we're going to take 1 can of concentrated guava nectar. Now, if you're making a bigger cake, you're going to need more. And I actually might go ahead and use 1.5 because I want to have I'm going to make a bigger batch because maybe I'll use some on some pancakes or something like that because that would be. I want to make sure I have more than enough. I know I'm only doing a smaller cake, so this probably really will be. But since I have this here, so yeah, I think I'll use half of that because I want to make plenty of simple syrup, and I'll show you how we're gonna do that. So I've got like 1/4 can left from our other container that we used for the cake. We're going to melt this down. We're going to add a little over 1/4 cup. Yeah, I think I have like 1/4 1/8 cup of sugar. We'll melt that, cook that down a little bit, let that come to a boil. And I've got 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. I'm going to add like 3 tablespoons of water and make a little slurry, and we'll add that to our guava, melted guava, boiling guava. Smells so good, so good. Can you see how pretty that color is? All right, so let's let that boil. Our guava nectar is almost to a boil. Not because I used a little bit more. I added 1 more teaspoon to our of cornstarch so that will make sure this thickens really well. I whisk that good so there's no lumps. 3 tablespoons of water. And I'll let this boil for a minute. So keep it. I'm not going to set my timer because I have my cake on. But let's go ahead and make our simple syrup. So I have about 1 cup of the guava nectar, and this is going to be for a simple syrup. So this is going to be a little bit different. And I reserved those cans, and I'm just taking a little bit of water out of there because we're going to put 1 cup of water into that pan for the simple syrup. You use 1-to-1 ratio if we're making a well, 1-to-1 ratio with sugar actually. But I'm going to use a little bit of this because we're going to reduce it down. So actually, I think I only want about a 1/4 cup of liquid here. So what did I say? 1/2 cup we had of the guava. Let's do a 1/2 cup of water. Oh, that's been boiling more than an hour. Oh, more than a minute. No worries though. Let's go ahead and add our slurry. And you're gonna feel that thicken up pretty quick. And this is nice to make the day ahead. You certainly can make it that day, but you do need it to cool down. I like to make it, just in my experience from making this before, make it the day ahead. You can put this in the fridge. It's good and chilled. That guava is so intense. It smells wonderful. We'll let that boil for about a minute, and we've got that good and whisked. I think it's going to be all right. Let's go ahead and we're going to get some sugar for our simple syrup. When we put these on all the layers, it's going to just make sure our guava cake has a nice intense flavor. You'll let this cool on the stove top before you just want to cook it good enough, boil it so it thickens up a little bit. It reduces. You definitely want to cool that down before you put it in the fridge. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get our sugar ready while that's. And we're going to use 1 cup of sugar. I'm using a baker's sugar because that's a finer grain. It's finer than regular granulated sugar. 3, 4. So that's a quarter. 4 cups, 1 cup. All right, so let's get that off there. Let's let that cool down, and that will set up for us. And now let's go ahead and make our simple syrup. And this will be thickened, but it won't be thick like the gel because we're not adding corn syrup. And we want this to boil and reduce down, and I'm giving it a good whisk. Want to dissolve all that sugar. Want our cake to be so like wow with guava. That was when we lived in Hawaii back in the early 90s, and I remember seeing guava trees for the first time in real life. It's like, oh my goodness, that's so cool. The mango trees too, they were cool. All that fresh fruit. When we lived in Hawaii, you can just imagine yourself sitting on the beach, hear the palm trees swaying, the crash of the waves. So maybe a little bite of this cake will transcend us to somewhere tropical. All right, we gotta let that boil, gotta let that simmer down. Just gotta clean up a little. Cake's got less than 5 minutes to go. Next, we're going to make our cream cheese whipped topping. I have 2 blocks of cream cheese, and I should have had these a little more softened, so we'll see how well because you want it like softened to like room temperature. And it's not quite there yet. But I'm going to go ahead and breaking it up a little bit so the mixer can not have such a hard time with it. So this is a double batch. If you're just making one little cake, you only need to half this recipe. But I'm making a little extra because I want to use it for another recipe. This whipped topping is really versatile. I've used it for, a couple of decades. We're going to use cream cheese. We're going to use a little bit of vanilla, a little sugar, and a couple of containers of heavy whipping cream. All right, so let's set that there. Let's start. Sure, this is good and secure. There we go. Let's let that whip a little bit. We'll add our other ingredients. Add this mixing for about a minute. Let's add our other ingredients. We're going to put close to a half a cup of sugar. I use the extra fine baking sugar. Oh, I need a little bit more. I thought I had it measured out. I think I used it for something else. So. And I didn't even pull that to the rim. I like it a little sweetened. I don't like my whipped cream heavily sweetened, so you can adjust the sugar a little bit to your liking. Let's do a couple teaspoons of vanilla extract. Use a pinch of salt. Just a small pinch. And we're going to use 2 pints of heavy whipping cream. Oh, I want this. We're going to slowly drizzle that into there. We can make this ahead and store this in an airtight container in the fridge. You want your cake completely cool before you put the whipped cream on there. And you're going to put the whipped cream, I should tell you that when I'm not eating this so it's so loud. About halfway through, you want to scrape down the sides to make sure you don't have any of the cream cheese sticking to the bottom, especially since it wasn't totally room temperature. Yeah, it sticks to the sides a little bit. Scrape that down. This is a great whipped topping too to serve with, like, if you just want to do strawberries whipped cream for Thanksgiving, Valentine's Day. Let's go ahead and add the other container. And you don't want to over whip. Obviously, we gotta incorporate both of the pints, but don't over whip it. I wouldn't say leave it or be right in the general uh, vicinity of it because you don't want it to turn to butter. I don't think I saved any of my guava juice. No, I used it all. I guess I used it all because I was like, the last batch I tried, I did flavor it a little bit with the. Oh, I do have another container in there, but I don't. It didn't really it didn't really flavor it a whole lot. So let's take a look. Sometimes it's easier just to do one batch at a time. Actually, get sometimes better results. I was a little impatient. I just wanted to do it all at once, but I know better. And this tastes really nice. It's light. Yeah, I'm gonna need a couple containers. I did make a double batch. I've got to run out to the store and get some piping bags because I'm all out of those. All right, this is cake number 2, and I was able to cut it in 3 layers. It's a little bit concave here, but we'll kind of make up with that with our whipped topping. Cake is completely cooled, and we're gonna put a layer of our, just spread it out to the edges. Now, I will have to say with making this cake, the layer cake, or not the layer cake, the sheet cake is the easiest. It's pretty. Um, and I mean, this is going to be really pretty too. You know what? I think I need a maybe an offset spatula on that. And you don't want to go all the way to the edges because it'll skirt out the side. Yeah, we are going to put some of this whipped topping along the sides, but we still don't want it to. So let's take our, I'm going to leave this layer for the top. Because this one's a little more, it's like I'm trying to decide how I want to do that. Yeah, I'm going to put this one in the middle. Now we could take all that brown that was on the bottom of the pan and we could kind of shave that off. Because that'll make our cake look prettier on the inside. This, I said, this is only the second time I made guava cake. The first time I'm doing it like this. I wanted something a little bit different for Valentine's Day. Try a little something different for Easter. If I was having guests over, I would be a lot more picky with it. This is kind of the test cake right now. So I'm not going to be as picky. And next time I probably will put parchment paper on the bottom because that helps prevent this. Alright, man, it's sticky. Let's get our guava simple syrup. Put it on the next layer. We're going to let this set in the fridge for at least a couple hours before we put the guava gel on the top. Because you want this really to set really well. And if you're if you're splitting the layers like I did, try to match it up as best as possible. But I kind of didn't do that. I can see it's a little wonky. It's gotta be as pretty as I want. This last piece, let's get on the top. It smells really good. Strong guava smell to all this. One, two. I feel like this is really fragile, so let's get closer. 1, 2, 3. Too quick. There we go. And if I was smart, I would have put a little bit of this parchment paper around the edges, but I'll still have to just clear that up. Now you can see here, I got a little dent, and I have that piece over here, so I'm going to try to glue it. We'll see. Let's go ahead and put our guava simple syrup on this top layer. So that whole container of simple syrup, I don't have any left because I wanted to use it for pancakes. That didn't happen. course, this is going to be our top layer, and we're going to, now we can spread it to the edges, and I'm going to take a piping bag. I think I might wait to the end, like after this sets a little bit, and then put my gel in the middle. I'll pipe it maybe tomorrow, because it's getting late. I just want to get this in the fridge chilled. I'll probably serve this tomorrow. That's the plan. Hopefully it'll work out. Now, where was that piece? I forgot to mark where it was. Oh, here it is. Is that a good idea? I don't know. But I did it anyway. Okay. Let's get a wet paper towel and clean that edge off. I spilled some of the drop of the guava simple syrup. Snack. All right, so let's take a big dollop there and then just spread it a little. I'm going to try not to touch the unfrosted part. Even though we are going to put cake crumbs on it, we're going to put the pretty pink. That's the plan. Let's see if that works. And pretty much I think we'll have to put the cake crumbs on here while this is still wet. And I don't know if we could try another layer of this frosting and then put them on. A little nervous about that. Even though our this isn't frosting, remember this is a whipped topping. It's a cream cheese whipped topping. This is just like home cooking. I'm not a professional baker, but I have made a lot of cakes. Served a lot of them out of love. That makes our dishes taste better. We add that ingredient. Then just go around and make sure you try to have as much of an even coat on the ones on the sides as you can. Don't have to get too fussy with the top, because we're gonna do some piping on there. At least that's the plan. We'll see how I do tomorrow. Okay, next step, we'll put the crumbled cake along the sides. Wash the hands. Here's the other cake. I tried to cut in 3 layers. I should have known better, but I'm going to take this and we're going to crumble this up. I'm going to try to get not as much of the brown part, which is the top. I think that was the top. This is going to be messy. Probably could do this in a food processor or your mini chopper, crumble it up. But I don't want it to gum up, so I decided to use my hands. You know what I mean? Because this is moist enough. And we put it in the food processor, it might like gum it up, and we don't want that. So we're gonna just take a palm full. I think this might be the best method. There's probably better ways to do this. If you got some ideas, let me know. I know I should have put some parchment paper on the bottom. But I think this is going to look pretty. What do you think? You want it fine enough. And there I see a big piece of brown. I don't want that in there. I want the pieces small enough. And then we have our small little cake. Can't forget about that. We were calling that the lover's cake because it's just a little tiny cake, perfect for dessert for 2. You get a couple of crumbles on the top, no big deal. Note to self too. Have a few, but if you're gonna do this, have a few boxes of. Oh, there's a piece of brown. I don't want that on there. Of cake mixes on hand, because I had to run to the store. I should have clued in that you could end up having a mistake. So that's pretty good. Just gonna go along the edges with my finger. I feel like I got that coated pretty good. There's a couple pieces I missed. I probably wiped it off with my finger. I'll have to work with a wet paper towel to clean that up. I might do that tomorrow. I might call this good to go. Wash my hands. I'm going to put it in a container to protect it. And we're going to let that set. You got to let that set for at least a couple of hours before you put your guava gel on. Well, I could see. And I'm going to check to see if I missed any spaces. You want that good and set, and that way when you put your guava gel on there, it won't like swirl in with the whipped cream. That whipped cream will be set, and then the gel will just set on top of there. So you pretty much can't make this the same day. I might have said that already. Just keep that in mind. I'm going to clean up. All right, it is the next morning and I'm serving this today, so I got to get this done. So we're just gonna, now that this is set all overnight, it's nice and chilled, and we're just gonna do some little, we could actually, let's do a ring around it first. Not that I really needed to do that. Oh, why is that blocked? Well, I wish I had a bigger piping tip. All right, let's just do a ring around here. Kind of conceals where the guava gel ends. And I might fuss with that a little bit, but all right. So we're just going to make a little, and like I said, I wish I had a bigger coupler right now because I have some bigger tips I would have preferred to use instead of this. I don't really like how that's turning out. Ah, jamming up. I think I gotta let this set a little. It's a little cold in here. Or I could try running a little warm water. Let's see if that helps. I don't want to have a blowout here though. Yep, that's what I did. I'm not really liking how this turned out, so I probably will change it a little bit. It's like clogging up. And then it does like a blowout. Finger. Okay. So we could do that. We could take a little bit of, let's see if I'm liking that. I don't really like the way that turned out. I wish I had a different coupler. So how do I want to do that? One or two things. I could take a little bit of the gel and dollop it on top. Or I could just smooth that out completely. Yeah, I think I'll smooth it out. I don't like the way that looks. What we could do is take a little bit of that cake mixture. We could smooth this out. And I just wet this a little bit so it comes out kind of nice. There we go. Is there anything I can do to fix this? No, not really. Yeah, I don't want to mess with it. I had more time, but I gotta head out the door, so. We could take a little of our cake crumble and put it on the top, but I'm not. Ooh, I had an idea. Come a little closer. So maybe I could make this a heart shape, right? Because we're almost there. There we go. It like clogs up every now and then. So this wasn't a good tip. We'll make it look like a heart. Here we go. All right, I'm happy with that. I just texture it a little bit. There we go. All right, I'm happy with that. Not perfect, but a little lopsided, but I'm happy enough.